Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I want to start off this by remembering this fella. This is Nick Shirley, a very well-known, prominent American right-wing YouTuber and influencer. And he went around with a guy just in the background to the right. And he traveled around literally every child centre. It's what we would call a nursery or a play school in the UK, looking for children, looking for operational establishments. And what did he find? Not a single one. What he in fact uncovered with his companion to the right, who'd been investigating this himself, was a multi-billion-dollar fraud. That's right, multi-billion-dollar, carried out by a load of Somalian, I suppose you could call them immigrants, into the United States of America. You see, when you open up something like a children's centre, you are obligated or you're able to get literally millions of dollars in grants, maintenance and everything else. So they're fencing all of this money out of the American economy and they're just shut. There's no kids, no sign of business, and no one's ever seen anything about them. Now, this is where I first came into contact with or first started to see what was going on here with all of this. I was absolutely amazed, gobsmacked. Now, the governor, Tim Walz, has, tried to politically turn everything around to make it anti-ICE, anti-Trump, and pro whoever is in Minneapolis doing what they are doing. Have a listen to this, and you'll get some idea.
My fellow Minnesotans, what's happening in Minnesota right now defies belief. News reports simply don't do justice to the level of chaos and disruption and trauma the federal government is raining down upon our communities. 2,000 to 3,000 armed agents of the federal government have been deployed to Minnesota. Armed, masked, undertrained ICE agents are going door to door, ordering people to point out where their neighbors of color live. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including U.S. citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And at grocery stores, at bus stops, even at our schools, they're breaking windows, dragging pregnant women down the street, just plain grabbing Minnesotans and shoving them into unmarked vans, kidnapping innocent people with no warning and no due process. Let's be very, very clear. This long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. Instead, it's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of Minnesota by our own federal government.
So what he's doing with this situation is using the rhetoric of his own voice, of the opinions of the people, and trying to influence them and turn the whole state against, what is really going on. You have a federal government, the White House, who want to go through America piece by piece, make it safe, clear it out, fix it constitutionally. And you get a lot of governors, a lot of mayors in the different states that have had it all their own way for too long, allowed them to go to rack and ruin and are kicking off and protesting effectively when they're getting a little bit of pushback. That's what it is. And you end up weaponizing, those words in your own benefit. And people pay the price ultimately, which we'll come to in just a moment. But let's have a look at this news article here to see where this is going. The Department of Justice is now investigating Governor Tim Walz, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, over alleged conspiracy to impede immigration agents. The Justice Department is investigating Minnesota officials, including Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, over an alleged conspiracy to impede federal immigration agents, an extraordinary escalation in the Trump administration's clash with Democratic leaders. There are multiple sources familiar with the matters told CBS. One of the sources, a US official, said the investigation stems from statements that Walz and Frey have made about the thousands of immigration and customs enforcement officers and border patrol agents deployed to the Minneapolis region in recent weeks. Subpoenas are likely to be issued in the probe. Sources familiar with the matter told CBS. A Justice Department spokesman declined to comment. This is an obvious attempt to intimidate me for me standing up for Minneapolis, our local law enforcement and our residents against the chaos and danger this administration has brought to our streets. I think the problem is the chaos and danger was already there. Now something is trying to be done about it. You are all kicking off. Frey said in a statement to CBS News, "I will not be intimidated. My focus will remain where it always has been, keeping our cities safe." Walz said in a statement 2 days ago, it was Eliza Slotkin last week, it was Jerome Powell before that, Mark Kelly, weaponizing the justice system and threatening political opponents is a dangerous authoritarian tactic. The only person not being investigated for the shooting of Renee Good is the federal agent who shot her. I'll come to that shortly. Nearly 3,000 federal immigration agents have been dispatched to Minneapolis with a stated objective of arresting people suspected of being in the US illegally and probing allegations of fraud in Minnesota. The Department of Homeland Security has called the massive deployment the largest operation in history. Well, it's got to be a problem. The large-scale presence of federal agents has triggered widespread local backlash, sparking protests and clashes, especially after the killing of Minnesota resident Renee Good by an ICE officer last week. Walz and Frey, both Democrats, have vocally denounced the federal deployment to the Twin Cities. Accruing federal agents are creating chaos and undermining public safety through aggressive tactics. Earlier this week, Frey said the federal deployment had created a situation that was not sustainable. We're in a position right now where we have the residents that are asking a very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the streets. Frey said we cannot be in a place right now in America where we have two government entities that are literally fighting over one another. Walz and Frey have called for protests to remain peaceful. The governor urged Minnesotans not to fan the flames of chaos in a message on X. Attorney General Pam Bondi, a reminder to all those in Minnesota, no one is above the law, and that'll include Walz. Deputy Attorney General Tom Blanche, who visited Minneapolis with FBI Director Kash Patel on Friday, appeared to make a vague reference to the investigation earlier this week. Walz and Frey, I'm focused on stopping you from your terrorism by whatever means necessary. This is not a threat, it's a promise, Blanche wrote earlier this week. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on Thursday said Mayor Frey and Governor Walz have to get their city under control. They're encouraging, impeding, and assault against our enforcement officers, which is a federal crime. Noem has said rhetoric from Walz and Frey perpetuated violence directed at federal officers, arguing that their comments undermine public trust in law enforcement and embolden protesters on the ground. The federal inquiry is focused on a federal state 18 U.S.C. 372, one U.S. official told CBS, which makes it a crime for two or more people to conspire to prevent federal officers from carrying out their official duties through force, intimidation, or threats. The statute has historically been used in cases involving coordinated efforts to obstruct federal agents, including actions involving violence or threats. Public criticism of federal policy has historically been treated as protected speech unless involving direct coordination or incitement to obstruct law enforcement. You know, the way I see the whole thing, we have a massive problem in the UK. You have a massive problem in the States where you've got individuals coming in to our areas that really should not be there, is the most polite way I can put it, or they're up to something which means they should be removed completely and totally. And what you have is a situation where the Attorney General and Walz have been criminally referred to the Department of Justice over the fraud investigation I mentioned at the beginning, to do with billions and billions of dollars. You know, there's whistleblowers that have turned around and said that the administration has blocked criminal investigations from taking place. And, you know, the language has been changed from fraud to overbilling to try and get around those prosecutions, thereby protecting the people that have committed the inappropriate actions in the first place. It really is a sorry state. And I want to show you this, give you a little bit more information now. Good morning, Carolinas.
This morning, the Justice Department is investigating Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey as newly released dispatch logs reveal the chaotic moments surrounding the deadly shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis. ABC's Johnny Fernandez reports as President Trump now appears to be walking back from his statements to use the Insurrection Act to deploy the military to the city.
Minneapolis is on edge as President Trump seeks to back off from plans to send active duty troops under the Insurrection Act.
If I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it.
This comes after the release of new 911 dispatch logs. Details the moments after ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot and killed Renee Good. The first calls coming in at 9:38 a.m.
I don't check a pole.
No, back up now.
I'm a physician.
Paramedics arriving at 9:42. Reporting 2 gunshots to Renee Good's right chest, 1 gunshot to the left forearm, and another wound to the left side of her head, which was listed as a possible gunshot wound. Dispatch logs show local law enforcement had to evacuate ICE agents from the scene because of the crowds. Top federal officials on the ground today. FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche meeting with local FBI leaders. Destiny Jackson had her husband and 6 kids in the car, including her 6-month-old, when she was caught in the chaotic protest after ICE shot a Venezuelan man during a traffic stop. Jackson said the gas grenades detonated their airbags, trapping them inside the van as tear gas spread. They say their 6-month-old baby stopped breathing.
Having to keep my baby like mouth to mouth and people like pouring milk all over my other kids. I thought I was dying, honestly.
In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security says the deployment of tear gas was prompted by protesters. Sources tell ABC News that a federal investigation has been opened into Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Governor Tim Walz, looking into whether they may have been obstructing law enforcement activity in the state. ABC News has reached out for comment. Johnny Fernandez, ABC News, New York.
Now, what you've got to look at there, they're under investigation for any connection to the fraud and, you know, under investigation for their overall involvement in the whole thing. Now, they talk about the shooting of Renee Good by an ICE officer in Minneapolis. And I had a discussion with somebody the other day about the conflicting narratives because there's several different angles at which that incident was taken. You know, there was one angled at one part of the car, one angled at another part of the car. So no matter which way you look at it, you know, you can make your own interpretation as to, you know, who did what, where, and when. But the whole sorry point is, which seems to be lost under a cloud of God knows what, is a innocent person lost their life in a crossfire. It really is that simple. And the tragic thing is her death, you know, it's used as justification. Walz is blaming the death on the surge of the ICE agents and the tactics used by the Trump administration. And what this death has done has just sparked protests all over the place. And, you know, when you have talks of rising up, when you have talks of civil war and all the rest of it, it just continues. And there's a lot of inflammatory tactics and a lot of inflammatory statements. Now, what I want to show you here is a press release, a statement off of the website where he's tried to detail what's been going on. So Governor Tim Walz today made the following remarks addressing the federal government's ongoing presence in Minnesota. My fellow Minnesotans, what's happening now in Minnesota right now defies belief. News reports simply don't do justice to the level of chaos and disruption and trauma the federal government is raining down upon our communities. 2,000 to 3,000 armed agents of the federal government have been deployed to Minnesota. Armed, masked, under-trained ICE agents are going door to door, ordering people to point out where their neighbours of colour live. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including US citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And at grocery stores, at bus stops, even at schools, they're breaking windows, dragging women down the street, and just plain grabbing Minnesotans and shoving them into unmarked vans, kidnapping innocent people with no warning and no due process. Let's be very, very clear. This long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. Instead, it's a campaign of organised brutality against the people of Minnesota by our own federal government. Last week, that campaign claimed the life of Renee Good. We've all watched the video. We've all seen what happened. And yet, instead of conducting an impartial investigation so we can hold accountable the officer responsible for Renee's death, the Trump administration is devoting the full power of the federal government to finding an excuse to attack the victim and her family. I've seen loads of different tweets and everything over this. Just yesterday, 6 federal prosecutors, including a long-time career prosecutor leading the charge to investigate and eliminate fraud in our state programs, quit their jobs rather than go along with the assault on the United States Constitution. But as bad as it's been, Donald Trump intends to get far worse. So you can tell, the rhetoric of this guy here. This week, he went online to promise that, quote, the day of retribution and reckoning is coming. That is a direct threat against the people of this state who dared to vote against him 3 times and who continue to stand up for freedom with courage and empathy and profound grace. All across Minnesota, people are stepping up to help neighbours who are being unjustly and unlawfully targeted. They're distributing care packages and walking kids to school and raising their voice in peaceful protest, even though doing so has many of our fellow Minnesotans targeted for violent retribution. Folks, I know this is scary, and I know it's absurd that we've all had to defend the law and order, justice and humanity whilst all caring for our families and doing our jobs. So tonight, let me say once again to Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, end this occupation. You've done enough. Let me say 4 critical things to the people of Minnesota. 4 things I need you to hear as you watch the news and look out for your neighbours. First, Donald Trump wants chaos. He wants confusion. And yes, he wants more violence on our streets. We cannot give him what he wants. We must protest loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. Indeed, as hard as we will fight in the courts and at the ballot box, we cannot and will not let violence prevail. You're angry. I'm angry. Angry might not be strong enough of a word, but we must remain peaceful. Second, you're not powerless. You're not helpless, and you're not alone. All across Minnesota, people are learning about opportunities, not just to resist, but to help people who are in danger. Thousands upon thousands of Minnesotans are going to be relying on mutual aid in the days and weeks to come, and they need our support. Tonight, I want to share another way you can help. Witness. Help us establish a record of exactly what's happening. You have an absolute right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct their activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see ICE in your neighbourhood, take out that phone and hit the record button. You know something, that's reckless, because in the heat of the moment, that phone being pulled out of a pocket could be mistaken for a firearm, and they will act, and there will be another death. Help us create a database of the atrocities. That's the third thing I want you to tell you tonight. We will not have to live like this forever. Accountability is coming. We will reclaim our communities from Trump. We will re-establish a sense of safety for our neighbours. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And, this is very much to me a governor of an area kicking off, because you've got federal government coming in and saying, we want all the illegals out. We want this business practice done with by these illegals. We want them out. And the guy's just going absolutely ape at all of it. You can tell, what is going on. Now, I've seen videos of this area. And there's one particular Minnesotan man that was in a video on X that was at the end of his driveway screaming about Second Amendment and saying that he has to protect his family and everything else. And it's the rhetoric. I mean, there's a direct quote here that was attributed. When things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line for the nation on July the 3rd, 1863. I think now we may be in that moment that the nation's looking to hold us to the line on democracy. And there's a historical reference to that. It's the Battle of Gettysburg. You know, and this has a feel of Walz, invoking that Civil War imagery in the minds of Minnesotans, really stirring it up against the ICE agents. And all they're trying to do is remove individuals from, you know, neighborhoods that shouldn't be there and keeping Americans safe. And the fact that everyone is reacting to it as it is, it's in big, big trouble. I mean, the thing with Trump, as I'm learning, he will do and say what he says he's going to do and say. There's no two ways about it. You won't stop the fella, and he will keep going. So let's see how this plays out. Anyway, thank you for listening. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave comments, share my stuff, and I'll talk to you soon. Toodaloo.